We have two different notions of family going on here. I don't know if you picked up on it. David is actually elevated by the leaders of folk and people who knew him. They really wanted him to be the leader. Meanwhile, you have Jesus, who goes to his hometown, and people, well, they didn't much care for him. Now, to be fair, David went through this process already a little bit, didn't he? He was the one brother who wasn't brought to Saul to be able to stand in front of Saul. Everyone just assumed he didn't have it, I guess. But either way, most of us are aware of this concept that a prophet is not welcomed or is not honored or respected in his hometown. It is difficult sometimes even for a parent to look at their child and see their child as anything other than a child. It is difficult. I remember, gosh, this is just coming in my head now. I remember after I graduated college, I went to graduate school, and then I went back to the college that I graduated from. My college advisor was still teaching there, and I was asked to give the baccalaureate address. And I did, and I came out, and the faculty member was like, wow, you actually learned something at graduate school. Like he was surprised I would have competency after studying for all of that time. To some degree, I was still just the student who left years before. What do we hear the people who knew Jesus say about him? Where did he get all this? What is this wisdom that has been given to? What deeds of power are being done by his hands? They recognized it. They referred to it as wisdom. They saw power coming from his hands, if you read the text. They're clearly amazed that he's doing something, but at the end of their statements, the response was simply, "Is not this the carpenter's son? Don't his sisters live around here?" The Lord is instantly discounted, even after people see signs of great power, teachings of truth. Even after seeing the stuff that they should get, they become discounted. They discount the Lord. So my question is, who are these people? You know, it's really easy for us to point at the people who are not doing the right thing. We always do the right things. It's really easy to say, oh, well, the problem with them is, but we know that this tradition teaches us that these people are in us. The Bible is a story about our spiritual growth, our spiritual development. So the question is, who is this family? Who is this neighborhood, this town within you? Now, what's not necessarily clear in this one passage is that Swedenborg teaches us that the concept of a town or a city is about the things that we learn and the things that we know. And you have two different cities mentioned in our readings today. You have Jerusalem, and then you have clearly Nazareth and the Galilee raising area, right? So you have this area down south and this area up north. Swedenborg says that northern area, it's kind of like if I stood here and said, up north, down south. Up north, down south. See the connection? For Swedenborg, up north, the Sea of Galilee is a place of what we know. Jerusalem is what we love. Jerusalem is that place that the king has taken over, and this is why it's so important for us to ask the question, who is your king? Is your king the thing of this world? Is it yourself? Is your king love of the neighbor, or is your king God and the whole of the divine creation? Jesus goes up there and starts teaching all these great messages of love, of looking to God. People recognize it. They understand it in their heads, but when it comes to living it, they discount it. They say, this isn't anyone that we should really listen to. One might say, whoever's ruling their hearts and their minds is not God. They're living in past assumptions. Do you hear that? Who is that? Oh, that's the little guy that played down the street. Who is that? Oh, that's the person who's descendant of that guy over there. And who knows, maybe his dad was a good carpenter, maybe a bad carpenter, but not enough to command the respect that his kids could offer a message that was valuable. What's happened is the separation where they're unable to connect the great messages that Jesus taught from something that they really loved and they really cared for. So the question is, what is that in you? How are you disempowered? How do you actually disrespect yourself? How do you discount yourself? You might be stuck, and an idea comes up, and you say, I can't do that. I don't have the ability to live the life I wish I could live, and we keep playing bad messages over and over and over in our heads about what it means to be stuck. I don't have the ability. You know, the people who are really bad at using computers are the ones who continually say to themselves, I can't use a computer. The strength to say, I'm going to use the computer and I'm going to use it every day and I'm going to learn is actually not that difficult. We learn things, no matter your age, everyone. We learn things every day. The question is, how often do we do it? How much repetition is there? What are the things that we're not discounting ourselves when we do them? What is it that's behind the why of what we do? I'm not sure if I have his name right. I'm not sure if anybody knows Jim Rohn. Probably not. He was the mentor to the famous motivational business speaker Tom Peters. Many people know the name Tom Peters. But Jim said at one point, you are the average of the 5 people you spend time with. So I want you to think about, I'm not telling you to get rid of your friends. But I'm asking, let's take the idea of people out of it and say, what are the things that you do? You are the average of how you spend your time. Whether they are people, and by the way, if you're really wanting to get rid of friends, the big question to ask is whether or not that person is supportive of where you want to go or is telling you where you should have been. Does that make sense? A friend might not be, it's the average. That means you have 2 or 3 good friends who are supportive of where you want to go. Then you have a couple of friends that maybe are pulling you back saying, no, you can't do that. That's what Jim would say. But you have things in your life that you are routinely doing. We are creatures of habit. Our bodies are designed to wake up at the same time every day, to go to bed at the same time every day. Stress levels, if you actually do that, decrease. If you keep a weird rising and and sleeping schedule, you actually get increased stress hormones. We are creatures of habit. How do your habits feed into your self-denial? What does it mean for you to change those habits? Are the things you're doing supporting you changing, or are they continually giving the message that you are not good enough and that you're not able to do more? And then how do you change? You know what I love about this passage with Jesus telling them to bring nothing but a staff? They don't use this word in the Bible. They talk about all of the other stuff you could bring, but in our day and age when we travel, the number one thing that we bring with us, we use the word baggage. This word baggage psychologically has come to be associated with unhealthy ideas, unhealthy thoughts, unhealthy things that we tell ourselves. Jesus is legitimately saying, when you want to go and change, don't bring your baggage. Look around and listen to what's being said that isn't the unhealthy messages of the past. The people who were around him acknowledged the healthy messages, but couldn't get past the baggage. So what is your baggage? What is your negative self-interest? What is the definition that you have told yourself about what you are capable of? Shameless pitch for our Habitat team. It was very small this past time. September, second weekend in September, is our next team. But here you have a group of people, some of whom who've never held a hammer before, going to build a house. The biggest obstacle for Habitat to get volunteers to come and help is people saying, but I don't know how to. I don't have the strength to do it. I don't have the physical ability to do it yet. The majority of the house is built by people with little to no experience. People who have capabilities that would never think that they have the ability to build a house. But something nudges them into a willingness to do something they think they can't do. One, of course, is a simple assurance that don't worry, you don't need it. But the other is a statement that they're helping someone get a home. The number one way for us to grow spiritually is for us to do it out of love. What does that mean to love? Most of us find it very easy to love our kids, to love our parents, to love our friends. The question is, how do you define who it is you're supposed to love? How do you make that radical shift to make it so you are willing to take a risk to grow in order to learn to love someone beyond your immediate circle? Intellectually, I think we all understand it. But somewhere you just need a little push. A little push to love people outside your circle. So when Swedenborg makes that statement about us not being able to elevate our hearts into new realms of heaven, what he argues is our understanding, what it is we think, when we redefine the notion of who our neighbor is. That transforms our love. When we start actually looking, well, you start off as a pretty selfish individual. You then fall in love with somebody, right? You redefine yourself by that relationship of marriage. You then have kids, and you redefine the notion of the neighbor to include your kids, your parents, your immediate family. I'm hoping, please tell me this is true, you start going to church. Maybe you redefine your notion of family as being that church. You get involved in your town. All of a sudden, your town gets redefined into a notion of family that includes a larger town. And as you start to include this larger notion of who is my neighbor, who is it that I'm called to love, you get opportunities to stretch yourself, to get involved with new things, to take nothing with you but God. But as long as you just sit there and care about yourself, as long as you get trapped in a maze of negative self-messages, you're not going to grow. But you can grow if you unite what you know with what you love and do it with a desire to help another person. So here's a hint for those struggling with simple tasks. If it's a computer, understand working with the computer about growing skills that helps you love another person. Find a way to unite helping someone with what it is you wish you could learn. Use that desire to care for someone, whether it's an immediate family member, whether it's a neighbor in the church. Anyone who wants to learn about group cooking can do so by thinking, hey, for me to volunteer and help in the kitchen at church is both learning a skill I don't know, and I'm doing it because it's me showing love to the people who are going to eat it. For me to learn how to do spreadsheets, how can I tie that with loving another person? If you start connecting the things, the skills, the habits with an act of love towards someone, all of a sudden the reason shifts and the dedication becomes the love of the neighbor, not this desire to master an unknowable and unachievable skill that you'll just sit there over and over and saying, I'm not good enough yet. And here's the funny thing when you actually help other people. Do you know what oftentimes happens? They say thank you. They welcome you into the new town. So I hope this week you will pick one thing that you have not done because you are not willing to listen to your own prophet inside of you. One thing that you wish you could do, and marry that to how doing that thing would be loving towards someone else, and live into that love so that you grow your understanding and your love at the same time and enter new communities of heaven in this world and inside yourself. Amen.